Hello everybody. Today we're going to take a look at congruence and shapes for geometry. You need to make sure you take good notes on this video, especially if you were absent. You're also going to want a calculator here as we work through some of these problems. Feel free to pause the video at any time so that you can get the notes and draw the images. I probably won't pause in the video, but that would help you if you needed more time if you just pause the video while you're watching. Okay, so quick little intro. Don't write this part down, but let's think about a really tough quiz, okay? I bet you already know intuitively what it means to be congruent in terms of shapes. So which one would match this triangle? If this was the first question on a quiz, would it be A, B, or C? If you said B, you'd be right. That one is exactly the same as the one that was given. Same here with the second one. Look at this triangle. Which one matches it? Is it A, is it B, or is it C? Now be careful on this one. It's actually A. It's just turned a little bit. But other than that, the triangle completely matches the one that was given. All the sides are the same. All the angles are looking the same. B is a little bigger version of that. What about 3 here? Looks like we have a trapezoid. Which one matches it? That would be A. Again, it's just turned around a little bit. It's a trapezoid. It's the exact same size, exact same shape. That's what it means to be congruent. Write this part down in your notes. Congruent shapes are when two figures are congruent, their corresponding angles are congruent, and their corresponding sides are congruent. That means the sides and the angles will match up perfectly, that the sides in one are exactly the same as the sides in the other, and the angles in one are exactly the same as the angles in another. They match up perfectly. They are exactly the same shape and size. Now, sometimes they may be turned, sometimes they may be flipped around, but congruent shapes mean that we have one shape that is exactly the same as the other. So for this first example, go ahead and write this one down. Given that we have these two figures, A, B, C, D, E, and F, G, H, I, J, they're congruent to each other. If you see right here, this is what's called a congruence statement. It simply states that one figure is congruent to another. And within that congruent statement, the order that these letters go in need to match this other shape on the other side. That means that angle A and F both need to go first, because on this picture, as you can see, angle A right here and angle F right here would be the two angles that are the same in these two figures. So we have to be careful when we list the order of the letters. According to this congruent statement, what are some things that we can conclude? Well, we can say that angle A is congruent to angle F, according to the picture. We can also do that with all the other angles. Angle B is congruent to angle G. Angle C is congruent to angle H. Angle J is congruent to angle E. And last but not least, angle D is congruent to angle I. Now those are just the angles. Remember, shapes have angles and they have sides. We could also say, or should also say, well then side AB would be congruent to side FG. Well, side BC is congruent to side GH. And side CD is congruent to side HI. Side DE is congruent to side IJ. And last but not least, how about AE is congruent to FJ. So what we see here is that we have all of these congruent angles, plus we have all of these congruent sides. That's because these two figures are exactly the same. They're designed to be. Because the figures are congruent, all of their little individual pieces, their sides and their angles, will also be congruent. Okay, go ahead and write this one down as well. What we have here are two figures, and they have all kinds of numbers and markings and letters on the vertices there, and we're wondering if these two are congruent. To know this, we would need to check all of their pieces to make sure they match up. So looks like one is just a turned version of the other. Do all the angles here in this first figure match all the angles over here? Do we have two 80s? Yep. Do we have two 100 degrees? Yep. And now we should check the sides to make sure they all match. That looks good too. 10, 10, 15, 15. It's looking like all of these pieces will match. This 15 matches with this one. This 4 matches with this one. Because all of the angles inside and all of the sides outside there match or are congruent, because all of the pieces are congruent, we can say that these two figures are congruent. Now to do this, we want to write a congruence statement. That's going to be a big part of your assignment. A congruence statement is you simply stating that the figures are in fact congruent. So I might start one like this. A, B, C, D, the first figure. Now when I list that, I listed the letters on the corners or the vertices. I started here and went this way, A, B, C, D, as I listed those letters. Now I need to say that figure is congruent to, and now I need to pick the matching letters from the other figure and go in the same order around the shape. So I start here at E, go to F, go to G, go to H. E, F, G, H. This is a congruence statement. This figure is congruent to that figure. And remember, the order of the letters does matter. They don't always have to be in alphabetical order, but they should be able to be used to identify that angle B, let's say, matches with angle F. Okay, that is a congruence statement. So sometimes we'll be asked to identify if figures are in fact congruent. You don't need to write this one down in your notes, but notice that these two triangles have markings on them. They don't have numbers for us to check, but the markings will give us a clue. What you want to check is to make sure that all the sides have markings that match up with all the sides in the other figure, and the angles as well. This angle has one mark, this angle has one mark. This angle has two, that matches with this angle here. This angle has three, that matches with this angle here. And so on, and check the sides. Side matchy matchy, yep, it's working. So yes, these figures are congruent. We would say yes, figure E, I, G, or in this case, they're triangles, so I would stick a little triangle in front. Triangle EIG is congruent to, and then I got to be careful. Now, when I name this other one, triangle, it would go QOM. Yes, those two figures are in fact congruent. Let's look at another one. Here's another picture. Are these two triangles congruent to each other? Well, these two triangles happen to be sharing a side. See how they're kind of smushed together there and sharing this side? This side needs some marks on it. It would be the same in both triangles. If we separated them and pulled them apart, that side length would be the same. So now let's check all the sides and all the angles to make sure they have corresponding markings. 1 mark, 1 mark, 2 marks, 2 marks, 3 marks on the shared side, angles marked, angle marked, angle here marked with an angle here. Yes, it looks like these two triangles have all their corresponding markings. And because of that, we can say that yes, these triangles are congruent, and we would say triangle KLN, let's say for the first one, K to L to N, is congruent to triangle. Now notice when we started with K, K has 3 markings on it. So in this other one, we have to start at M, and then we have to go to N, and then we have to go back to L. So yes, those two triangles are congruent. Third one down here, let's see if these two triangles are congruent. Let's look at their markings. Well, they have an angle shared here, here, 2 angle slash, 2 angle slash. Looks like all the sides are marked in both of them. Hey, right here at E, there's some vertical angles. Those two vertical angles would in fact be congruent to each other, and we should go ahead and mark that. And now that I see that they have all the markings that they need, I can say yes. So triangle DEG is congruent to triangle HEF. Okay, paying attention to those markings on there to help us guide where we're going. Okay. And now the fourth example, the last example. I would write this one down in my notes again because here's where some algebra comes in. Find the value of x. What we're given is that these two triangles are in fact congruent. That means that they're perfectly the same, that their angles and their sides would all match up. And we need to use that to find the value of x. That's over here, right here at this little angle R. So this angle R right here in this second triangle, he is the same as which angle in the first triangle? Well, let's look. It's kind of hard to tell because it appears that these triangles are rotated a little bit. If we look up in the congruence statement, R is the first letter listed. Hey, he would match up with F. So whatever angle F is right here, that's what R would be as well. Well, we would need to do a little math there to figure out what F is. So far, I have 55 degrees and 65 degrees used up in my triangle. If you do a little math there, that's 120 total degrees that have been used out of the 180 possible. So if I take 180 and subtract that 120, that means I have 60 degrees left for angle F right here. So if that's 60 degrees, then let's take a look at angle R. He's 2x plus 30. We know that those two have to be the same. So we'd say 2x plus 30 equals the 60 degrees from the other triangle. And now we can go ahead and use our algebra skills to solve for x. 2x would be 30, x would be 15. So we found the value of x by understanding that these two triangles are in fact congruent. Okay, the assignment you're going to get today is a worksheet, 1 through 15, all of them. Make sure that you ask questions in tutor time if you need any additional help. Thank you.